Hello everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play Blades of Avernum. Last episode we started hearing the bounty hunter story, and finally we're able to put together how the bounty hunter is connected to everyone, or more specifically, how everyone is connected to Christopher Sly. He's the main theme in all of this. Anyway, I'd already searched in that direction. It could take me a month to search the waterfront if I started wandering down every alley and side street. For the time being, I decided to stick to the main roads. The street stank of fish and sweat. I waded through crowds of the greasy, slimy riffraff that inhabited the waterfronts, ever on the lookout for my quarry. Suddenly, I spotted him. I caught sight of him down the street, entering the Spray Inn. It's good to be good, but sometimes it's better to be lucky. I'd gotten lucky this time. Real lucky. I shoved through the crowd as I made my way towards the Spray. I pulled my hood low as I peeked inside the inn. I didn't want Sly to spook when he saw me, but I didn't have to worry. He was nowhere to be seen. I cursed. Where the hell could he have gone? He'd walked in less than a minute ago, and he definitely wasn't sitting at any of the tables. There must be a back door. I stepped back outside. There was an alley to the west. I sprinted towards it. I slowed down as I entered the alley and pulled my invisibility cloak around myself. This was it. I had had enough with trying to arrest Sly, and the myriad of other thieves at the waterfront weren't likely to take kindly to seeing a bounty hunter hauling away one of their own. I would kill him and be done with the whole thing. There he was. He was standing with his back to me and seemed to be engaged in some sort of dispute with two other men I'd never seen before. One wore tattered blue robes, the other dark blue armor with a blue flag emblem on his chest. Sly had his back to me and was distracted by the argument. It would be an easy matter to slay him and make my escape. This had turned out fairly well. If he'd stayed in the inn, I'd have had to kill him in front of all those people. Though living in Sigersell probably had them used to public murders. For some reason my sword didn't meet the resistance of leather and flesh. It just whistled through the air harmlessly. Sly had dove forward to avoid the stroke. He hadn't even turned around to see that I was there. He must have had his eyes in the back of his head, or just the best luck in the world. My sword whistled inches past his head and continued on to clang against the breastplate on the man next to him. Sly's dive had spared his life, but he was now defenseless. Unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity to strike when he was down. The blue-armoured man hadn't taken kindly to being struck. He rounded upon me and swung his halberd in a deadly arc. I was forced to roll away to avoid being cloven in two. First, he would have to be dealt with. The blue-armoured man fell dead. I wasn't familiar with the blue flag that adorned his armour, but whatever faction he belonged to, they'd taught him how to fight. Defeating him had consumed all my attention. Sly and the robed man had disappeared while I was distracted. They were nowhere in sight. I was sure that I hadn't seen them run past me. I would have noticed that, and I hadn't seen them re-enter the inn either. Yet there was no other place they could have gone. Frustrating. Sly had somehow managed to escape me again. The man was like a greased pig. No matter how firmly in your grasp, he could always somehow slip away. I wandered the waterfront dejectedly. The constant near misses were beginning to get to me. It was like I was hunting a ghost, but for some reason this ghost got a kick out of letting me get tantalizingly close before it flitted away. It was growing late and the sun was setting. I was getting ready to give up and leave this land for some place where everything I attempt doesn't turn against me, when... Out of the corner of my eye I saw a figure lying behind a dumpster. All I could see were the pants, but I could already tell they were the same black suede that Sly had been wearing. Could it really be? It was Sly, all right. There he was again, lying there in the dirt, defenseless. I drew my dagger tentatively and knelt beside him. I reached out to put my hand over his mouth, but stopped just inches before I touched him. I was sure that he would turn out to be an illusion. It was just too impossible that after all my failures and disappointments I'd find him like this. I don't know what would have surprised me more if he'd turned out to be real or illusion. I never got to find out. A blunt object crashed into my skull. When I came to, I was lying further down the alley, out of sight of the road. I still had all of my possessions, and was unharmed except for the bruise on my head. It was now pitch black, and Sly was nowhere to be seen. I don't know who hit me, but they weren't interested in robbing me or anything but keeping me from my prey. I swear, either that Sly has the devil's own luck or something has it out for me. Whatever it is, I know when something isn't meant to be, and I know when enough is enough. I'm never returning to these parts. There's something wrong with a land where a tale like mine can unfold, and I want no part of it. And now, if I know anything about how this works, you owe me one hell of a story. On second thought, save it. I didn't plan to stay here any longer than it took for my head to be in a condition to travel, and I'm ready to head out now. Count yourself lucky, Singer. This isn't a tale I'll be spreading. I don't reveal this much to anyone. I don't know what drove me to speak to you anyhow. I blame the head wound in part. Oh, glad you made an exception for me. This place has me acting entirely unlike myself. The sooner I get out of here. He trails off as he strides away towards the north road and is quickly lost in the shadows of the forest. Not the kind of man you'd want to be on the wrong side of, but he was good-natured enough for your brief encounter. Farewell. And thus ends the tale of the bounty hunter, the fifth tale. And once again, he was so close. Poor guy. He was a badass, but man. So, now we know all 5 stories and we know how everything was connected. This Christopher Sly caused all this. All because he stole some pearls from a guy. The time had flown past unnoticed while you were listening to the other patron's stories, but now a thunderous yawn brings it to your attention again. It is indeed getting to be quite late. You glance around the common room and don't see any new faces. These are all the same people who were here when you arrived. Looks like you're done here, and the sooner you hit the road, the sooner you reach your destination and can rest. Emery hasn't left his chair, but he now stares out the windows of the inn with a pleased expression on his face. When you approach, he begins to speak.
When I first escaped, I thought I could never again bear to be cooped up indoors. Outside it was so beautiful and open and free, but how could I ever trap myself within walls again? But there's something to be said for a warm fire, hot food, and walls to keep the wind off you. The outdoors is a step away. I can leave here whenever I want. Amazing, isn't it? I'm free. I can do anything I please.
And what will that be?
I don't know, but I think that it will be far from here. I would like to live out in the wilderness, build a cabin and fill it with books. During the day I'd go out and read in the shade of the trees, and at night I'd return home and sit by the fire. That's the type of thing I missed these last 5 years. I didn't do enough of that in the old life. I never enjoyed the silence. I was always bustling here, giving talks there, writing and scribbling notes even as I traveled. I'm done with all that. This time I'm living by myself, for myself.
So what was it you did? Why were you in jail?
I think you can imagine why a person like me would wind up on Lord Cromwell's bad side. I'd rather not dwell on the past, though. Suffice it to say that I care too much.
Adriana is still watching over the comatose Sly. She looks up as you approach.
Hello again.
What'll you do now?
I don't know. I have a general direction in mind, but no specific plans. First, I'll wait until Christopher has recovered. Then, well, I'll see where the road takes me. There's a lot of suffering out there. I don't see why I should stay in Sigasal.
So how'd you get Sly here?
Well, I already had the horse, and when I went to fetch it from back at the courtyard where I left it, I ran into a man who was looking to sell a trade cart. He'd found it with a broken axle, abandoned in the middle of the grey road. Brought it back to the city to repair it and turn a quick profit. Sold it to me for a song. The rest of Ethan's money is paying for this inn.
Oh. So that's the merchant's cart. Huh. Theo still sits in the same spot, although both his plate and the pitcher of ale are empty, and he hasn't made a move to replenish either. What are your plans now?
I suppose I'll retire to my room shortly. It's been a long day, and the last time I got any sleep was in the back of a cart. Or did you mean what I will do long term? Well, like I said, I don't think the Silver Steed will be welcoming me back. Doesn't matter. A man with my skills ought to be able to find a job where he doesn't have to put up with this kind of shit. I'll find something. Maybe I could be a bodyguard for some noble or another. A well-liked noble.
Logan's mood hasn't improved since you last saw him. He still leans over the bar, his hands clasped before his face. His flagon is still full, so at least he hasn't been drinking. Probably a good idea for a man in his condition. He looks up a bit when you approach.
Greetings.
So what are you going to do now?
I don't know. My old life is gone, and I fear I may be too old to start a new one. The only one left from my time at the chapel is Adriana. I want to go to her, but I don't think I can look her in the eye and tell her the things I've done. I can't face her. She needs a fresh start, and I know I can only hold her back.
Well, that's all there is. I guess all that's left is to leave. It is getting to be quite late. Your stay at the Tabard Inn lasted longer than you expected it to. It was also more fruitful than you expected it to be, though, so at least you won't be traveling late for no reason. This leg of the trip will hopefully be less nerve-wracking. You certainly have enough to think about to take your mind off the bandits, and you're starting to think your performance for Lord Astor might not necessarily be a disaster. At least not if you can piece something decent together from all you've heard today. You get the feeling that you won't be sleeping for quite some time. You're going to have your hands full with this one. But for now, what matters is that the moon is out to light your way, and you have miles to travel before you reach your destination. Do you set out again? Depart. First character's gear. Oh, this is so we can pick up everything we had. To return everything to how it should be. I get it. Second character's gear, third character's gear. Souvenirs. The ribbon. The lady's favor. An unexpected reprieve. Sole survivor. Grim mask. Okay, what are these? The lady's favor. 5% protection from melee damage, protection from petrification, plus 2 levels to melee damage. Soul Survivor. Divine Restoration at level 20, plus 2 to priest spells, 40% resistance to fire damage. Ribbon. 25% less chance to be hit, minus 20% levels of encumbrance, cast Curing at level 100. An Unexpected Reprieve. 30% chance of saving life, plus 5 to luck. And the Grim Mask. 100% resistance to mental effects, 50 damage to attacker, cast terror at level 100. Interesting. You are about to depart the scenario for good. Are you sure you have all your gear and are ready to leave? Yeah, it's time to go. And so ends the Tales from the Tabard Inn. That was quite a story. Quite a bunch of stories, in fact. I liked it. This guy, Lazarus, I believe, is the guy who makes these stories. He's a good writer. He's got something good here. I think there's only 2 scenarios of his left that I have to do. And I'll get them done, starting the next episode. I look forward to his scenarios. I like his stuff. It'll be interesting to see what he's got in the next 2 scenarios I'm going to do. So, but the last 2 he's done, Frostbite, Tales of the Tabard Inn, prime stuff. Really good. So yeah, I am really looking forward to what comes up. I may not be I know there have been people who've said I shouldn't be doing it the way I'm doing, because if I do all the scenarios that are supposed to be done one after the other at the start, I'll be getting all the great stuff out of the way right at the beginning. And I may be doing a bit of that. But it's no big deal. I wouldn't know which are the best. I don't know which are the best ones. I don't know which are the worst ones. And of course, there's the thing that, well, what one group may think is, oh my god, awesome, everyone praise it, I may disagree with. But that's what happens there. And that is going to be the end of this episode. Next episode, we'll try the next scenario by Lazarus. And also, I got to fix up my files. Till then, I'm Chester44. This has been a Blades of Avernum Let's Play. And I shall see you all next time.